slowly dreaming of a holy kiss. Always been a dreamer, will you dream with me? If I should lose my way, then will you follow me?
Hey guys, Shubhesh here. So the POCO X2 may not be the POCO phone that we were all kind of waiting for from a very long time, but still it does a lot of things in more than one way, just like the classic POCO phone or the classic POCO F1. Now, I don't really mind this being a rebranded K30 or a Redmi K30 as long as it provides us value for money, which it most certainly does in my honest opinion. So the POCO X2 has targeted 4 major aspects of a smartphone. First one being the performance, second one being the cameras, third one being the display, and fourth one being the battery life on the phone. And starting off with the performance, obviously I did not face any sort of lags in my usage of 1 or 2 weeks or something more than that. For me, honestly, the phone has been working or faring up pretty well. There are literally no issues whatsoever, may it be light usage, heavy usage. Even in terms of gaming, I did not face any sort of issue. So if you are kind of into gaming as well, this phone is not going to make you regret. Obviously, I've always said this, if you still want to buy a gaming phone under 15,000 rupees, then POCO phone F1 is your guy because it has a very powerful chip. But if you want an overall device with good gaming in it, then the POCO X2 or the Realme X2 are the devices that you should go for. But speaking about the POCO X2, now it's not 100% flawless performance. Obviously, there are no lags, but I have faced some sort of stuttering issue going on in the stock launcher itself and occasionally in apps like Facebook and Twitter. So what basically happens is, because this device is running on a 120Hz display and it is trying to constantly pull out those 120 FPS, we forget that this is a Snapdragon 730G running phone. So what happens a lot of times is that phone is not able to pull out those constant 120 FPS, and when the drop occurs or when the frame drop occurs, we kind of notice it and it kind of annoys me to some extent. It doesn't really feel that much smooth. Obviously this doesn't always happen, but this does happen sometimes, and I thought of kind of letting you guys know about that. So yeah, maybe over time, like 6 months or 7 months later, maybe the performance will degrade and we may not see constant 120 FPS even in the user interface, or when you kind of flood the phone with applications just like I do, you might face a degrade in performance. But if you are a light user, then this phone is going to give you a constant 120Hz smoothness or goodness on your phone. Now the POCO X2 does come up with the Sony IMX686 64 megapixel camera sensor, and I've already made a video on that, and this phone or this camera sensor is absolute monster. I mean, initially when I made the initial impressions video, I thought that maybe the performance is kind of similar to what I saw on Realme X2 Pro, Realme XT and Redmi Note 8 Pro, where we have got the Samsung counterpart of this particular sensor. And no, after using it in depth thoroughly, after getting a second opinion on this, I found that the sensor on this phone is incredible. It's way better than what we get on the Samsung phone. Not way better, but obviously it is marginally better, and you can definitely notice the difference. The details, the sharpness, the overall, low light performance as well is pretty much better on the POCO X2. I was literally blown away with the camera performance that I'm getting here at the specific price point. When it comes to post-processing as well, the phone does a fairly good job. We get accurate colors. The colors are not oversaturated. The white balance is accurate in 99% of the times. So white balance and color accuracy is not an issue. The portrait edge detection as well has been doing pretty good, although there is some sort of over sharpening of issue when the subject is placed far from the background, or when there is a lot of distance between the subject and the background. This basically happens because the phone might struggle a little bit to find the depth and just try to figure out things about who is the subject and where is the background and all of that stuff. So in that case, it might happen that you might see a little bit of over sharpening going on, but that doesn't always happen. It does happen in rare cases. Apart from that, in some situations, the shutter speed is too slow at 64 megapixel, and there is some sort of lag as well on the 64 megapixel shutter button, which is why you might see these kind of distorted images, which honestly don't look that much good, although you can get really creative with these images. This is still an issue and POCO needs to fix this up. I've already spoken a lot about the cameras in depth in my detailed camera review. Not my camera review, but a photographer's camera review. That will be given in the I button or in the description box below. Just be sure to check that video after you're done with this video. So to sum the cameras are great and you're not going to regret buying this phone for the sake of cameras. In fact, this is definitely the best phone when it comes to cameras under the price of 20,000 or 25,000 even. I mean, I'm not afraid to quote that. And these are some selfies that I took, and while I'm not a selfie person, I can definitely say that in some situations, the images might look a little bit overexposed. So Poco definitely needs to work a little bit on the dynamic range on the selfies, but overall the skin tones and the overall details on the face are pretty good, and I've got no complaints about that. Now about the display and the battery life. Now both of these aspects are controversial, and more importantly they are kind of linked with each other. I mean, the display heavily affects the battery life. That's what I'm trying to say. So basically what I feel over the battery life and the display thing is that Poco didn't really go with a good strategy when they came out with the 120Hz display or 120Hz high refresh rate display and a 4500 mAh of battery. I mean, the battery thing, yeah, they got it right on the hardware level, because 4500 mAh of battery capacity is legendary in my honest opinion. It is great. It doesn't add a lot of bulk to your device, and it still manages to give you that superior battery life as compared to other devices. But the problem lies within 120Hz display or a high refresh rate display in general. So basically, you guys know that IPS LCD does drain additional battery if you compare that to an AMOLED display panel, and that happens because AMOLED display panels have this a way of functioning where they kind of turn off the black pixels, or wherever there is kind of a dark portion on the phone, they turn off the pixels, which mean they are not on. That part of your display is not really on, so it's not draining the battery in the background. But that can't be said for an IPS LCD panel. IPS LCD panel kind of fakes a black color, so which is why the IPS LCD panel within itself drains a lot of battery if you compare that to an AMOLED display panel. But on this IPS LCD panel, we have got a 120Hz high refresh rate, and 120Hz is crazy hungry when it comes to battery consumption. I mean, literally, I was not able to get screen on time above 5.5 hours. Obviously, my usage is quite a lot heavy, so I'm not kind of complaining about that. But on the other budget devices which I've used in the past, for example Redmi Note 8 Pro and Realme X2, I was able to get much better battery life if I compare that to the POCO X2. And I did watch some rain tests on YouTube as well, where I found that the Realme X2 was kind of a little bit better when it comes to battery life than the POCO X2 side by side. And this kind of makes sense because 120Hz literally drains a lot of battery. And I've tried experimenting as well. I switched to 60Hz for an entire day and I was able to get much better battery life. But then it kind of doesn't make sense because you have bought a phone which has got a 120Hz display and you're using it at 60Hz. So I don't think that it makes much sense. Then why did you even pay your money for that 120Hz display? I mean, you could have gone with an AMOLED display panel, for example Realme X2. So if you are going to buy this phone, then definitely you should use the phone at 120Hz, but you're not going to get very impressive battery results as well. So the battery life is not really that much good. It's not really that bad either, but budget phones have been known for that incredible battery life. And clearly the POCO X2 does miss out on that. But speaking about the display solely, the display is good, it is vibrant, it has got this mode where you can kind of adjust the saturation or you can kind of clone that AMOLED saturation levels onto your IPS LCD panel and it works pretty well, I should say that. The display is incredibly bright as well and outdoor visibility is not really an issue, and I'm pretty happy with the performance when it comes to outdoor visibility that we are getting over here. But there are certain issues outside of that battery life, outside of that 120Hz display as well, and that is screen bleeding issue. Now the screen bleeding issue, this is something a few YouTubers have spoken about. Near the notch or near the camera cutout, you can see a little bit of screen bleeding going on. Now I don't remember the exact term. Back in 2018, POCO had given a specific term for this thing and they appealed a lot of users to not call it screen bleeding. Screen bleeding is a different issue, but I forgot that term and here I am speaking about screen bleeding. So yeah, the screen bleeding was a problem on the POCO F1 and it is something that you can also see on the POCO X2. It is not as prominent as it was on the POCOphone F1, but near the chin area you can see a little bit of bleeding happening. Now I'm not sure if this is my own unit or it has been the case with others as well. Just I'm letting you guys know that there is some sort of bleeding stuff going on. It is not prominent, you can't notice it in your day-to-day usage, but if you turn on the full brightness in a darker area and if you check the area near the chin with a white background, then you can notice the stuff going on. Speaking about the chin that we see here is actually pretty thin. It tries to get as bezel-less as it can when it comes to budget phones. And speaking about that camera cutout, I don't really like it. I don't like it because there is an unnecessary camera sitting over there. I mean, we've got two cameras in the front. One is a standard selfie camera and one is a depth sensor for portrait selfies, and that in my opinion is totally unnecessary. POCO could have gone with a single camera setup in the front and we could have had kind of a better viewing experience or a better notch style. Not criticizing or anything, I mean it just could have been better in my honest opinion. The back as well, it doesn't disappoint me. In fact, I kind of like it. I know a lot of people have criticized the overall design of the phone, but honestly, I like it. It's just a thing of personal preference. So, you may not align with my opinions over here, but hey, personal preference, opinions thing. Over here, I've also been using a Gadget Shield skin on top of my POCO X2. Now that is something I'm using not to change the way my phone looks, but to actually protect the phone from scratches. And yeah, it has been doing a phenomenal job. I've also been using the phone naked for a few days now, and so far I have not dropped it, but I'm sure that if I've dropped the phone, the skin is not going to protect me. The skin obviously protects me from accidental scratches. And yeah, if you guys want a skin for your device, I'll make sure to drop a link. And this is arguably one of the best skin that I've tried. So these skins have been made out of 3M material as well. So you can just go ahead and buy a skin for yourself, just in case you want to change the way your phone looks, or if you want to use your phone naked and are a little bit conscious about the scratches and stuff. And then there are some other small things as well, which you may not find on the paper, but actually make quite a lot difference in your day-to-day usage. And I'm talking about call quality. So the call quality on this phone has been nothing but excellent. I mean, I never really expected a budget phone to be this good when it comes to call quality. A simple example is that there are certain areas in my place where there is really poor call quality or a cellular network reception, and I literally compared two phones side by side. It was a Samsung phone, and the call quality that I found on the POCO X2 was much better than what I found on the Samsung device. And about the speaker, this is definitely not the loudest speaker that you can get. The phones from Realme especially have very loud speaker setup, but that's also kind of a little bit of compromise because Realme phones kind of distort at higher volumes. That's something I've found in my usage. That doesn't happen on the POCO X2, but the volume is not really that much loud. And me coming from the Realme X2 Pro, I kind of miss the high speaker volume sometimes. Yeah. So by default, we do as well get a 27 watt fast charger, and it charges the phone in 1 hour, 10 minutes or 15 minutes, and that is a pretty good track record. And I've tried it myself, 0 to 100, it's not an issue. And now let's talk about the side mounted fingerprint scanner. Now this, after using it a lot extensively, I can confidently say that this is something that I would prefer over the in-display fingerprint scanner. Definitely, 100%. Firstly, because it is physical, it is a bit more reliable when it comes to accuracy. It definitely unlocks the phone faster and more accurately a lot of times. So accuracy and speed is a clear advantage. Besides, the placement of the fingerprint scanner is actually pretty good. The face unlock as well has been surprisingly good. It does unlock very well in low lighting situations as well. So face unlock also is not an issue. So now the question, should you buy this phone? Well, if you have followed till this long, then you probably know that my answer is going to be yes. Because this phone is kind of really good. Despite the battery issue, despite the screen bleeding, I would still buy the POCO X2 because overall the phone has been pretty good. Even the software on this phone has been optimized pretty well. And more importantly, this phone is 1000 rupees cheaper than the Realme X2. And I would especially recommend this phone to someone who wants to buy a phone for a good pair of cameras, because that's something that you can find only on the POCO X2 under the price of 20,000 rupees. So if you're a guy who wants to buy an overall device, even if your usage is heavy, this is my best recommendation. I would definitely buy this phone or recommend this phone to anyone any day, despite the battery thing. The POCO F1 at this price point of 15,000 rupees just gives you gaming. The POCO X2 may not give you as impressive gaming, but it gives you great cameras, good gaming, good performance, and kind of a controversial display which can turn out good. I don't hate it, it's kind of neutral in my opinion, but yeah, overall the POCO X2 is a great device and at a very competitive price point. And yeah, that's it for this video. I hope this video helped you in some way or the other. If it did, be sure to leave a like, drop a comment, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Thank you for watching.